The polls are closed and the votes are coming in.
The fight for the governor's mansion underway tonight, but that's not all that's at stake.
Yeah, Democrats are hoping to turn a recently red state blue again and possibly make history with America's first female African-American governor. Of course, we're talking about Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, just moments ago, she declared victory on Twitter. Our results show her commanding lead over Stacey Evans as the votes continue to be counted. In fact, we've learned that Evans has now conceded, pledging her support to Abrams. Here's a look. Now 39% of the polls reporting here. Stacey Abrams with 74% to Stacey Evans 26%.
We will go live to the Abrams campaign in just a minute, but first let's take a look at the Republican results as they stand right now. Casey Cagle, the lieutenant governor, has the lead right now with 39% of the vote. With 52% of the precincts reporting. We went through it too quickly there, but Brian Kemp is second, Hunter Hill third, Clay Tippins fourth, and Michael Williams fifth with 5%. Of course, the question tonight is, will Casey Cagle be able to win this without a runoff? It's not looking like that at the moment.
Well, we do have live team coverage tonight. We have crews covering both sides of the aisle, and we're going to begin with Fox 5's crew down at the Abrams campaign, where Abrams is speaking now. Let's listen.
Values of faith, of family, of service and responsibility. Hard work is in my bones. And so is a deep respect for those who wake up early and come home tired but ready to read to their kids at night. Or those families that come home just to change clothes to get ready for their second job. And all those who are just getting by, or those who are doing well but worry for the next generation. I have a respect for those who care for their loved ones, or those who've already earned their rest and retirement. A respect for our service members, their families, and our veterans. Our campaign and our work is for them and their security as we shape the future of the state that we love. And this time, guys, we have a tough race to come. And sometimes we can find it easy to forget about the solid ground beneath our feet. But we must remember that we're in the state where the red clay gives life to generations of dreamers. A state where when Martin marched on ballot boxes and challenged a nation's conscience. A Georgia that gave us the godfather of soul, the queen of the Met, and sent a peanut farmer to the Oval Office. That is our Georgia. And I know you know that as our state's rich and complicated history courses through our memories on nights like tonight, when the unexpected becomes the truth, it reminds us of who we are, how we've stumbled, and how we flourished. And it commands that we embrace our obligation to live up to Georgia's tradition of pride and of promise, but to always remember our very complex roots. And together we will shape a future with a boundless belief and historic investment in the children at the very core of every decision we make. That means affordable child care for families and real pathways of opportunity from cradle to career. Because when all of Georgia's children have a chance to reach their potential, regardless of their zip code or their family salaries, we can reach our potential as a state. And we will unleash the full power of our people. That is why public education and public schools must remain the beating heart of Georgia to prepare. We have to propel our young people towards lives of security and happiness and achievement. But even as I speak here tonight, public education is under assault in our state. With our kids and our educators being told to do more and more with less and less. But as the state's public education governor, I will use every tool we have to ensure that we stop shortchanging our children and sabotaging our futures. Because our children deserve better than a basic education. They deserve excellence no matter where they learn. And together, we will deliver.
Stacey Abrams running as a full-throated progressive in a state that has not elected a Democrat to the governor's mansion in 16 years. She graduated from Yale Law School, the former minority leader of the House. She has a long road ahead of her, but won convincingly tonight, no question about it.
She received a huge endorsement today. Hillary Clinton came out in support of her campaign. And as you heard her making a lot of references to the history and the future of the state of Georgia, she would become, if elected, Georgia's governor, the first African-American female governor in the country.
Let's turn now to the Republicans who she would be running against. I'll show you some of the numbers there. Again, Casey Cagle leading on the Republican side with 39% of the vote, with 52% of the precincts reporting. Brian Kemp, the Secretary of State, at 26%. Hunter Hill trailing in third with 18%.
Well, we want to check in now with Doug Evans, who's downtown at the gathering spot. That's where Stacey Evans' campaign is. And it looks like it's cleared out there already, Doug.
Well, Sine, Stacey Evans is not happy with the outcome tonight, but she is proud of her part in the history that was made here tonight in Georgia. For the first time ever in Georgia history, 2 women were on the Democratic ballot for governor in the state of Georgia. Abrams, as you now know, moves on to the general election in November, and she does so with Evans's full support and congratulations. In fact, Evans told her supporters here tonight to get behind Abrams, give her their full support in November. I talked to Evans about the history that was made here tonight.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, Georgia's never nominated a woman to be the nominee of either party in the governor's race, and so this is a historic night, and I congratulate Ms. Abrams on making history, and I look forward to helping her make even more history in November.
Stacey Evans in her concession speech still talking about the poor little girl who grew up in Ringgold, Georgia, in North Georgia, and she says that she will continue to fight for the dreams of children in Georgia. She, of course, says that she will continue to fight for the Hope Scholarship and restoring that to all of the students in Georgia who had previously been allowed to go to colleges in Georgia under the Hope Scholarship. She says she will continue to see that that is important to her and to the Democratic Party, important to Abrams as well in the election to come. Live in Northwest Atlanta, Doug Evans, Fox 5 News.
All right, Doug, thanks very much. Let's turn back to the Republican side. Casey Cagle has been the lieutenant governor for 12 years. He'd certainly like to be governor, but 4 others would like to deprive him of that opportunity.
That's true. He's been the front runner through most of this. Let's head over now to Morse Diggs, who's with the campaign. And Morse, what are things looking like there at this hour?
Well, a steady rain up here in Gainesville did not keep approximately 300 of his well-wishers from coming out here tonight and talk to him. Many of them have been with his campaigns before. We've got video where he was down here not too long ago, greeting those folks, thanking them for their support, gathering all around, and they have been confident all night.
A lot of the reports that just come in obviously just give us some indication, but we clearly are in first place, and I expect us to stay in first place all night long, I can tell you. So we're gonna keep pushing, and you guys keep helping us as well. But this is a great night of celebration, regardless of what happens, whether we're in a runoff or not. It's going to be a great, great night.
Now, I spoke to the lieutenant governor out in the hallway about 30 minutes ago, he told me he wants to see more of the Metro County vote. He says Gwinnett and Fulton look good. Cobb, he's cautious about that. Let me tell you, he's not just looking for tonight, but he's looking for the race down the road. And here's what he's looking at. This race could actually split some households, with Casey Cagle in a runoff getting the soccer moms, and perhaps the second place finisher will get the husband in the pickup. The reason for that, he's concerned about some of these commercials that have been out there and how far he might have to run to the right. Live from the Casey Cagle campaign in Gainesville, I'm Morris Diggs, Fox 5 News.
To your point, Morris, I'm sure he's aware that Karen Handel won by 11% 8 years ago in this round against Nathan Deal, and then he came back weeks later and beat her in the runoff.
Well, it really is awesome to be here, and
Well, he's aware of those numbers, but this is a very fluid situation, and what he's wondering about when he looks at a county like Cobb, a strong conservative county, he's wondering those numbers don't look quite as good right now as Gwinnett or Fulton. And what he's concerned about is, he says, look, can you believe those commercials? That's his concern, and that is he is an establishment, fully formed conservative, he says, but he's not going to try and gallop all the way to the right and do the gimmicks, that's his word, gimmicks on these commercials. Russ?
All right, Morris, thanks very much.
Well, a lot of conversation has resulted from those commercials.
No question.
We want to go now to Denise Dillon, who is there with the Brian Kemp campaign, with the latest.
Yeah, I can tell you that Brian Kemp, his family, and all of his supporters in this room right now are feeling incredibly good. The numbers are still coming in, of course, but at this point, he looks like he is in a very strong second place. Right now, they're all watching some of those controversial commercials we have seen over the past few weeks. But we have video of when Mr. Kemp first arrived here at the watch party in Athens a little more than an hour ago. He took the podium and stood up there with his wife and his 3 daughters surrounding him, and he was already talking about a runoff.
Crowd, our people are so motivated. They've been working so hard, so we're expecting good things tonight. Just our goal all along for 14 months has been to get in that runoff, and that's what we're hoping for. Well, we'll see how the numbers look tonight, but a runoff's all about turnout and whose people are more motivated. And I think you can see tonight this crowd's motivated.
Now, I was just in the war room with Mr. Kemp. It was him, his consultants, his financial advisor, and everybody else was family. They were all watching those numbers very, very closely. And I did ask him, hey, you know, what are we going to see, or are we going to see anything different if it comes to that runoff? He said his message is going to stay the same. And he says, as you heard him, when it's in a runoff, it all comes down to voter turnout. He feels like he has enough motivated supporters across the state, not just in one central area, but across the state, that will really help him in this campaign. Reporting live in Athens, Denise Dillon, Fox 5 News.
All right, Denise, thanks very much. It looks like it's going to be Cagle and Kemp. Hunter Hill is 8 points behind Brian Kemp, and George Franco is with his campaign tonight. George?
Well, Russ, one of the first things that gubernatorial candidate Hunter Hill told me when I spoke to him briefly is that he thinks it's going to be a long night. We shall see when the polls are all said and done. Right now, we've got supporters gathered here at the Marriott Northwest in Cobb County, where there's still, fair to say, a healthy dose of optimism. Let's go to some video where we see Mr. Hill spent a few minutes shaking hands and thanking supporters one-on-one at around 8:15 or so. Hill was elected to the state senate in District 6, the Smyrna Buckhead area, in 2013. He quit last summer to run for governor after 3 military tours, 2 in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. The former Army Ranger cast himself as a conservative outsider, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-religious freedom, who wants to do away with the state's income tax and be tough on immigration. Supporters told me Hill's military service and leadership on the battlefield and at the Gold Dome made him an easy choice. Mr. Hill obviously was hoping that others saw that as well. Mr. Hill said that he would be governed by his faith and his belief in the fundamentals of this country. We were told that he's expected to make some kind of an announcement shortly, but we're not told obviously what that is. But with the numbers going in the direction that they are going, one can only presume that it's going to be in the direction of conceding. We will let him make that announcement, and when that comes around, we'll also let you folks know. But for now, at the Hunter Hill headquarters, I'm George Franco, Fox 5 News.
Okay, thank you so much, George. Well, let's take a look at some of the other primaries today. 5 candidates running for lieutenant governor. Beginning on the Democratic side here, Sarah Amico, she's in the lead, 55%, to Triana James, 45%, 56% reporting at this point. Let's also take a look at the Republican side in the lieutenant governor race. Here you see where David Schaefer has a significant lead, 48% at this point. Jeff Duncan, 26%. And this is with 56% reporting. So we continue to keep an eye on this.
Yeah, will there be a runoff there? Turning now to the race for Secretary of State, leading now with the Democrats, John Barrow with 52% to Dee Dawkins-Hagler's 29%. Rakeem Hadley trailing there with 19%. And for the Republican candidates for Secretary of State, let's take a look at those numbers now. Brad Raffensperger with 35% with 59% of the precincts reporting. Looking at this point potentially to be heading to a runoff with David Belle Isle currently at 28%. All right, it is certainly a tight race of sorts on the Republican side for governor. We want to bring in our Fox 5 political analysts from the Georgia gang, Phil Kent and Theron Johnson. Thanks very much for being with us.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Let's begin with you and talk about Stacey Abrams. Can she create enough new voters, do you think, in Georgia to make up for the deficit that the Democrats have seen in the last 16 years in statewide races?
Well, this is a huge win for Stacey Abrams. I mean, she had a strategy from the very beginning to do exactly what you just talked about, Russ, which is to expand the electorate. So she spent a lot of time focusing on Democratic voters, but she also tried to get a lot of new registered voters. Yeah. So it's going to take all of that for her to really put up a competitive race against a Republican in November. But Democrats were excited. You know, we got a person who I think is going to go on and run a good campaign, but also congratulations to Stacey Evans. She's a great Democrat. She's got a bright future, and I really wanted to make sure that, you know, she keeps her head up. But basically, Stacey Abrams is our nominee, and we're going to get behind her.
And she has pledged her support.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Republican side. It seems like a runoff is likely, Phil, but the big questions, at least from the ads that we've seen, seem to be who loves their guns more and who's tougher on immigration.
That's right. You got it. And I think that's why Brian Kemp we see is being propelled into the second spot. He had some great TV ads over the last 10 to 12 days. Of course, Casey Cagle is hanging in there as the #1 slot. And just as a quick analysis, I would think that Hunter Hill could have gotten in this runoff. It's still a little early yet, but Clay Tippins, the outsider, has got around 11%. He's draining from Hunter Hill, and that's, of course, helping Brian Kemp stay in that #2 slot.
How concerned should Cagle be that the other 4 seem to represent the kind of anti-Cagle block of the Republican Party?
Well, he should be concerned because that's tricky now, even though he's in the #1 slot. You remember back in 2010 when there was a Republican primary, Karen Handel won the first round with 11 points. And then she faded, and Nathan Deal won by 1 point in the runoff. So it's tricky with regards to turnout, and the alliances can be shifting.
All right, Phil Kent, also Theron Johnson, thank you both for your insights today. We appreciate it.